Welcome into the weekly Main Street Media TV High School Football Wrap-Up Show. We're going to be checking into all corners of Middle Tennessee where our sports editors and reporters will share with us how each team from Main Street Media coverage areas did on the football field last week. If you're seeing this in Middle Tennessee, the chances are that Main Street Media has a newspaper that serves your community. Go to mainstreetmediatn.com to find the local Main Street paper in your area, and when you find it, you may just sign up for a subscription to keep up with all the news and sports coverage we've got lined up for you. Okay, let's get this week's high school football wrap started, and we'll head over to Wade Neely in western Middle Tennessee.
What's up, folks? Wade Neely here. I'm your sports editor over in Dickson County, Hickman County, and Cheatham County, and battling through COVID-like symptoms, facing a little adversity, but kind of like our football teams in week 3, battling through the elements and battling through, we will do the best of our knowledge and the best of our abilities. And I'm going to do that just for you guys here today. As we have an update across our coverage area, we mentioned weather was the big headline coming into and out of week 3. A lot of games did not get played at all on Friday. A lot of games were postponed to Saturday. Some have been moved to Monday, and some were straight up never to see the light of day. They were canceled as the final non-region week for a lot of our foes in our coverage area. They decided to abandon those games in their entirety. But for those that were played, bear with me, folks, and I'll bring you through the week 3 scoreboard. Fairview put a whooping on Hickman County. Unfortunately, the Bulldogs, that momentum from week 1 has long gone, and they've found out in a hard way just how motivated and how determined Fairview is after they had a little bit of a letdown season by their own admission last year. They have really taken care of business in by and large against all their foes thus far. 40-0 was your final coming out of Fairview. Again, that game was moved to Saturday afternoon. Speaking of Saturday afternoon, a game that I was at, man, it was a game for the ages, and I'm glad they got it in. I hate that it didn't go Sycamore's way, but the War Eagles fall 28-27 in double overtime. It was a game that was halted midway through the first quarter Friday night, but they resumed action on Saturday, and when they resumed, there were moments of action, but there was a lot of hard-nosed football played in between as Liberty Creek went up 7-0 early. And then Sycamore answers 3 plays later, a 51-yard jaunt for Hicks Hunter, who had 3 of the 4 Sycamore touchdowns in this defeat on Saturday afternoon. By the time we are tied at 14-14, Sycamore begins a drive deep in its own territory, deep, backed up inside its own 10-yard line. And on third down, they come up with a miracle throw downfield, hauled in for the first down, and from there, Sycamore is off and marching. They end up running the entire fourth quarter out, and they line up for a 39-yard field goal. But unfortunately, the field goal from their place kicker, Gutierrez, off to the left. And as a result, we head to overtime. In OT, both teams score pretty easily. First, it was Liberty Creek as their quarterback, Jackson Collier, slips in from about 5 yards out. And the PAT puts them up 7. Sycamore answers in style as well as Hicks Hunter finds the back of the end zone and puts a double overtime on the docket heading into the next round here. COVID brain, folks. It's reducing my memory here. But we go back to the second overtime. Now Sycamore does answer first. And Sycamore, unfortunately, does leave a proverbial point hanging in the balance as they miss the PAT. And leading 27-21, that proved fatal as Liberty Creek rattles in a touchdown of their own. And then they score and add the PAT to win this game again in double overtime. 28-27. Saturday night in our coverage area, Montgomery Central put a 26-9 victory on Harpeth, a game that did not really go Harpeth's way. They struggled in that one. We had hoped to bring you guys more in-depth coverage of that ball game. Unfortunately, our part-time writer couldn't make the trip out on Saturday, so we did the best we could, scrambling some words together and trying to get you guys an update on the Harpeth Indians as they struggle. Battle of the Indians goes in favor of Montgomery Central. And again, Harpeth now winless on the season. As for Cheatham County, I'll close. They don't play until tonight. By the time you're watching this, this game will have gone final, but it's a Monday night showdown versus Stewart County. If the flu-like symptoms subside, hoping to be there on hand, hoping to maybe go out and get you guys a report from the game. But as it stands right now, a 7 p.m. kickoff as Cheatham County and Stewart County will close things out. Wade Neely saying so long. I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Wade. Casey Patrick is also in Western Middle Tennessee. Let's go check with him.
Hi, my name is Casey Patrick. I'm the sports reporter for the Dixon Post, Cheatham County Exchange, and the Hickman County Times. I'm going to give you a quick rundown in the last week's action. I almost said last Friday, but we had a lot of weather, so some of those games got moved to Saturday. We've even got a Monday game coming up, so I don't have a complete post-game report for you. But we will start with the game I was at Saturday evening. Dixon County defeated Creekwood 24-23 with a wild fourth quarter comeback. Cougars were down 13 points going into the fourth quarter. Creekwood was up 23-10, and Dixon County was able to score 2 touchdowns to take the lead. Moving over into Cheatham County Central's up 12-6 at halftime over Stewart County. That game was postponed until Monday evening, so that's later tonight. Montgomery Central defeated Harpeth 26-9. Liberty Creek defeated Sycamore 28-27 in double overtime. That's back-to-back weeks for the War Eagles, tough losses. And then over in Hickman County, East Hickman had their game canceled, out of region game. They just canceled it. They're not going to reschedule it. And Hickman County lost 40-0 to Fairview. I believe they finished that game up on Saturday as well. In fact, all of these games were either finished up on Saturday or, like I said, Cheatham County Central is going to play later on Monday night. So thank y'all and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Casey. We've got some amazing sponsors, so let's take a moment to hear from them.
He shoots, and he scores!
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Welcome back. Northwest Middle Tennessee is up next, and that's where we're going to go find Calvin White.
Hello everybody, this is Calvin White, Northwest Regional Sports Editor for Main Street Preps. Here to give you a quick recap of all of the Week 3 high school football action in Montgomery, Robertson, and Houston County. A lot of games pushed from Friday to Saturday last week because of the weather, but we do have final scores from all of those games starting in Montgomery County. Clarksville beats Rossview for the 8th consecutive meeting in the rivalry for the Warfield Shield. Clarksville takes that one 38-6. Kirkwood shuts out Kenwood 21-0. That game was called late in the third quarter due to weather, but the Cobras win 21-0. Antioch wins 40-15 over West Creek. West Creek scored its first points of the season on a fumble return for a touchdown by linebacker Jalen Jackson, but the Coyotes dropped that one 40-15. Northeast suffered its first loss of the season. They lose 65-26 to McCracken County up in Kentucky. Davidson Academy shuts out Northwest 35-0. That game was also called early due to weather. Montgomery Central gets its first win of the year. They beat Harpeth 26-9. Grace Christian wins 17-7 over Clarksville Academy. And then moving over to Robertson County, Trousdale County wins 55-6 over Innovation Academy on Thursday. Springfield beat undefeated Portland 27-19. Springfield moves to 3-0. Richland handed White House Heritage its first loss of the season. Richland wins 21-10 over the Patriots. And East Robertson won its 8th consecutive match in the patch rivalry. They win 34-3 over rival Joe Burns. Macon County wins 7-0 over Greenbrier. That game was originally suspended on Friday due to the weather, supposed to be played on Saturday. The two teams agreed to not finish the game, and Macon County gets the win. Station Camp wins 35-7 over White House. That game was also called early due to weather. And finally, over in Houston County, the Fighting Irish fall 42-6 to Waverly. That'll do it for all of our high school wrap-up coverage in the Northwest Central region. I'm Calvin White. I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Calvin. Let's move on down to Southern Middle Tennessee and check with Maurice Patton.
Hey, I'm Maurice Patton. Week 3 of the Southern Middle Tennessee high school football schedule is brought to you by the words cancel, postpone, and suspend, because all 3 of those got some work this weekend. One game that we did manage to get in, though, was the Cowbell game down in Lawrenceburg between the host Lawrence County Wildcats and Giles County. And the Wildcats held on to the Cowbell, getting their first win in that series since 2015, though it was not played from 2019 to 2022. Final score, Lawrence County 42, Giles County 28. The Wildcats improved into 3-0, and a big part of that was senior quarterback Logan Clayton. 15 carries for 140 yards, 3 touchdowns, 242 passing yards, and 3 touchdowns. In other words, he accounted for all 6 Lawrence County touchdowns in that victory on Friday night. Again, Lawrence County improving to 3-0 on the season, snapping a 5-game losing streak against Giles County with that 42-28 victory in the Cowbell game. Congrats to the unbeaten Wildcats. Let's stay in Lawrence County as Summertown and Cascade played in Summertown at Summertown's new stadium. And for the second week in a row, the Eagles picked up a 2-point victory, 23-21 over the champions out of Cascade. That's their nickname, the Cascade Champions. Michaela Powell with a 59-yard reception of a Max Dillard pass for a touchdown, giving you the final score there in that one as the Eagles improved to 2-1 on the season. Again, their second straight win in their new stadium, their second straight 2-point win following a 16-14 win over Wayne County back in week 2. Summertown improving to 2-1 on the season with that win. Things didn't go so well on the other end of the county. Loretto falling to Lewis County 41-0 in the Region 5 2A opener for both those teams. Back-to-back shutout losses for the Mustangs. With that loss, they fall to 0-3 on the season and 0-1 again in Region 5 2A play. Back to Giles County, where Richland was victorious over White House Heritage on Friday night, 21-10, despite some lightning delays as there were across the area again on Friday night. Tucker Mayo started the scoring for Richland with a 2-yard reception of a Gavin Schrader pass, ended the scoring for Richland with a 78-yard pick six, choking off a late comeback attempt by the visiting Patriots. Again, Richland 21, White House Heritage 10. Richland improving to 2-1 on the season with that non-region victory there. Down in Lincoln County, Battle Creek went to the pit and dropped a tough one, 49-0. The third straight loss for Battle Creek. Second shutout loss in 3 weeks, going back to their season opener against Mount Pleasant. But Lincoln County dealing the Grizzlies a 49-0 loss down in Fayetteville on Friday night. Those were the games that got completed on Friday night. Zion Christian entertained Creekside Christian out of Georgia. That game got to halftime with Creekside Christian winning 12-6 before they were unable to go any further because of the weather that we had again across the area. That game was ultimately declared a no contest. So Zion Christian did not lose, did not win, no contest against Creekside Christian out of Georgia. The Eagles staying at 0-2 with that outcome on Friday night. Meanwhile, a couple of games that were canceled. Columbia Central was scheduled to play Independence. That game was not played and will not be made up. Ditto for Glencliff at Spring Hill. They never got started. Neither team took the field, and they will not be making either of those up as they were non-region contests. So Columbia Central Independence, Glencliff Spring Hill, both canceled. The Lions and the Raiders will be down to 9 regular season games as a result of those decisions. Games that were pushed back into Saturday. Brentwood defeated Summit on Saturday afternoon, 35-7. Summit falls to 1-2 on the season, 0-1 in Region 6-6A with that loss. And a couple of other games that did get started on Friday but did not finish up. Columbia Academy traveled to Pope John Paul II. That game was tied 21-all with about 50 seconds left in the third quarter before they ultimately had to suspend play. Came back on Saturday afternoon. The host Knights scored a pair of touchdowns in the fourth quarter and got out with a 34-21 win over Columbia Academy in Division II AA Middle Region play. Aiden Honeycutt with 94 rushing yards and a touchdown in that loss for the Bulldogs, who fall to 1-2 overall, 0-2 in region play with that loss. Finally, Mount Pleasant goes to Forest on Friday night. That game was 24-21 when it was suspended with four minutes and some change remaining in the ball game, 4:14 to be exact. In the fourth quarter, they were unable to continue, had to go back on Saturday, finish things up, but little changed as Forest held on for that 24-21 victory in a matchup of two previously unbeaten. Forest improving to 3-0, Mount Pleasant falling to 2-1 with that loss. That's going to do it from the Southern Middle Tennessee area. I'm Maurice Patton. We'll see y'all later this week.
Thanks, Maurice. Okay, now we've covered a lot of territory so far, but we're not done yet. We'll be right back right after this.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
When the arena lights dim for a concert, or when the crowd becomes one at a big game, you can almost feel like you're the biggest fan. But who's your biggest fan? It's the person that will get you home safely after a night of drinking. It's the person who looks out for your life to make sure you leave the stadium with someone sober. This could be a designated driver or someone who offers to get you a ride share. Because in Tennessee, fans don't let fans drive drunk. Brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, a division of the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security.
We are back, and we are ready to go over to Blaine, Kellar in North Central Middle Tennessee.
JB2 running back Marcus Cantrell rushed for 202 yards, and his quarterback Isaiah Batten passed for 260 more as the Knights came back from a 14-0 deficit and won 34-21 against reigning D2A runner-up Columbia Academy. That score highlights the schedule in Sumner County. I'm North Central Regional Sports Editor Blaine Kellar here to give you the full slate, scores and more from that area, as well as what happened in Nashville that we have coverage of on MainStreetPreps.com, as well as our 4 print publications, the Gallatin News, Hendersonville Standard, Portland Sun, and Main Street Nashville. Continuing on with Rock Batten's team, the Knights trailed 14-0 before a lightning delay hit in Hendersonville, ultimately postponing the game. JP2 started its comeback late Friday night, but had its game pushed to Saturday, and it was there where JP2 found its footing. Marcus Cantrell found a lot of yardage, as did Batten, as the Knights picked up their second win of the season. Again, 34-21, the final there. Other scores, some of which were postponed, others were called early as a final result. Station Camp winning 35-7 against White House. That game was called in the second quarter because of weather in the area. Westmoreland and head coach Ryan Harris won their first game of the season, another shortened contest, 36-0, that one being against Red Boiling Springs in Red Boiling Springs. One other game from Saturday was Liberty Creek picking up its first win of the season. The Wolves downed Sycamore on the road, 28-27. Took 2 overtimes to get there, but Bill Alexander and company are on the board for this season. The game I was at Friday, Springfield continuing its strong start to the season, 3-0 now after handing Portland its first loss. The Panthers had to sit through a long lightning delay themselves, had a chance to come out of the stoppage and tie the game or take the lead. That didn't happen. Springfield took advantage. 4-star recruit Jermaine Cobbins, a sophomore for Springfield. He really shined in this game. Had a few contests that did not finish. Beach versus Henry County. Caden Powell had 2 touchdowns, and the Buccaneers led 20-14, but that one was eventually ruled a no contest. In the third quarter, Gallatin and Centennial, the Cougars took a 3-0 lead at Calvin Short Field on homecoming, but hardly had much more than that before that game was called. Hendersonville and Page had all of about 2 plays before that game, again, was called early. So a couple of no contests in Sumner County. Few games finishing Saturday, and very, very few finishing on Friday. Now, looking at the games that we have coverage of, you can find these in Davidson and Williamson counties on Main Street Preps and Main Street Nashville. We'll start with Saturday, had a few games there. Ravenwood took a 40-0 halftime lead against Green Hill for winning 43-13 over the Hawks. Quarterbacks Femi Babalola and Maverick Chance. Femi committed to Boston College. Maverick committed to Navy. They combined for 5 touchdowns. BGA, initially set to host Pearl-Cohn on Friday, had their game moved to Saturday and into Nashville. Didn't matter much, though. The Wildcats moved to 3-0 with a 42-17 blasting of the Firebirds. One more score for you. Nashville Christian and DCA were tied at 7-7 before their game was moved to Saturday. Georgia commitment Jared Curtis and TCU running back commit TJ Ward really helped spark the Eagles to down DCA, that final score becoming 45-13 on Saturday. Give a quick go Frogs as a TCU fan. And that's the scores and more from what we had on Friday night. Again, you can find all of that coverage online and soon enough in print. We'll see you back here shortly for our preview show coming up in a couple of days.
Thanks, Blaine. Here's David Wilson in East Middle Tennessee to wrap us up this week.
Hey everybody, this is David Wilson, East Middle Regional Sports Editor for Main Street Preps, to give you a quick recap of all the Week 3 games across a rainy and lightning-filled week of Week 3 football in Wilson and Rutherford County. We'll start things off on the east side of town in Wilson County, where things got kicked off on Thursday in the Main Street Preps radio game of the week between Whites Creek and MJCA, and it was Whites Creek and sophomore quarterback Deion Barnes picking up a 46-14 win over the host Saints. Barnes completed 8 of 14 passing for 265 yards and 3 scores in that matchup. Whites Creek moved to 3-0 for the first time since 2019, and Mount Juliet Christian has dropped its first 3 games of the season, giving up 40 points in all 3 matchups to Joe Burns, Concord Christian, and Whites Creek. On Friday night, there were some games that were completed that got in through the weather. Wilson Central moved to 3-0 in the season with a 29-22 win over Coffee County. Running back Chaz Martin rushed for a school record 261 yards and tied a program best 4 rushing scores in that matchup against the Red Raiders. He ran the ball 38 times, so carried the load for the Wilson Central offense. In Nashville, it was Lebanon moving to 3-0 in its season. They picked up a 27-0 win over McGavick. That game just completed the first quarter and was called off due to lightning in the area. The Blue Devils scored on all 4 of their drives. They were perfect. Their drives extended from 50, 55, 65, and 85 yards. Quarterback Austin Harrison was 5 of 6 passing, 168 yards and 2 scores. And the Blue Devils also ran with Guyan Edzetza for 5 times and 87 yards and 2 scores in that matchup. Watertown picked up its first win of the season on Friday night, weathered a lightning delay in the second half. They were all over DeKalb County 31-0. Garrett Davis finished with 156 yards passing and 3 total touchdowns in this one. He connected with wide receiver Jesse Bratcher for 7 times for 135 yards, and 2 scores. Gunnar Tompkins also had a 67-yard scoop and score on defense for the Purple Tigers. On Saturday, it was Friendship Christian defeating Mount Juliet Christian in their first all-time meeting at Pearl Field. It was the Commanders 28 and the Golden Bears 3. That was also the 300th win in the career of head coach John McNeil at Friendship Christian. He's won 4 state championships with the Commanders. Blake Waldorf threw 2 touchdown passes in this one to Braden Stringer, and the Commanders defense also had 2 pick sixes in this matchup with Jackson Pullum and Gage Dayton all getting in on the action with pick sixes and scores in that one. On Saturday night, it was the game I was at. It was Ravenwood all over Green Hill. The final score was 43-14. Femi Babalola and Maverick Chance both combined for 5 total touchdowns in this one. The Raptors led 40-0 at the half. They held Green Hill quarterback Kenan Burrows to a season-low 10 of 23 passing for 81 yards. He threw a touchdown on the first drive in the third quarter, and he also threw 1 interception in the first quarter. In Rutherford County, region action got underway. These were once again games filled with rain and lightning, and some got pushed back to Saturday. On Friday, this one was completed. I believe at halftime, it was Oakland 35 and Smyrna 0 in that matchup as the Patriots pick up their first region win of the year. It was in the Battle of the Kreisky Bowl. It was Blackman defeating Riverdale by a final score of 17-10. That's the first time that Matt has picked up the win over his twin brother Will. It was Rockville 30 and Laverne 6. It was Siegel picking up a win over Stewart's Creek by a final score of 18-15 with a game-winning field goal on Saturday. It was Eagleville 42-0 over the Tennessee Heat, and it was Providence Christian Academy picking up a 55-22 win over Grace Baptist. So that is a quick and abbreviated recap from a wild and wacky week 3 across the mid-state. Looking forward to talking to you guys next week.
And that is this week's high school football wrap-up show. Now, don't forget, Main Street Media TV has football-based shows for high school, college, and pros lined up for you this season. You can find everything you need to know on your local newspaper's social media pages or by downloading the Main Street Media TV app. And remember that Main Street Media Radio gets your high school football week started with our Thursday night game of the week audio broadcast featuring Wade Neely and Casey Patrick. They will be on the call all across Middle Tennessee this season, and you can catch them every Thursday night starting at 6:45 p.m. Also, set your calendar for our weekly high school football preview show featuring these same sports editors and reporters who are on the field each week sharing your favorite team's action from the sideline. The preview show is scheduled for every Thursday at 1 p.m. during high school football season. All right, that's it for this week. We'll see you right back here next Tuesday with the high school football wrap-up show on Main Street Media TV.